Um, This meeting's being held remotely as an alternative means to public access pursuant to the order issued by the Governor of Massachusetts dated March 12, 2020, superseding certain provisions of the open meeting law. You are hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting will be recorded by the town of Scituate in accordance with the open meeting law. Meetings will have a question and answer session following each public hearing. Abutters will have the ability to raise a hand. Please keep total to less than 3 minutes. So I'm going to do a roll call vote of the commissioners. Richard Harding.
Here and at home.
Doug Alberg.
Here at home.
Penny Scott Pipes.
Here at home.
Jen Foley.
Here at home.
Andrew Gallagher.
Here at home.
And Brendan Collins.
Here at home.
Thank you. Are there any additions or amendments to our meeting this evening?
I don't think so, Frank.
I have one,
Okay.
Frank.
Yep.
Yep.
Go
I
ahead.
would like, can I make it?
Sure.
Okay. I would like to have a brief discussion and possible vote on amending an order for 780 First Parish Road at the end of the meeting.
Okay. We'll discuss that towards the end of the meeting.
Please.
Thank you. Okay, can I get a motion to accept the agenda with those changes, or that change?
I make a motion that we accept the agenda with the change I just mentioned.
And that's Penny. Do I have a second?
Second.
Richard? Great. And so for a vote, Richard Harding,
Yes.
Doug Alberg,
Yes.
Penny Scott Pipes,
Yes.
Jen Foley,
Yes.
Andrew Gallagher,
Yes.
Brendan Collins.
Yes.
Okay. It's okay if I'm blacked out. I've got a face for radio anyways. So we're going to go through the RDAs.
Correct.
So this is the MBTA right away on Monday, August 31st, 2020, during the 5:15 meeting at the Town Hall. Scituate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Keolis Commuter Services for determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetlands bylaws for activity related to vegetation management, control, and maintenance activities for the years 2001 through 2005 for the railroad right-of-way in Scituate, Mass. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted at the website. Okay, who do we have on for that?
This is Matt.
Clary Kutu from Keolis. I'm Director of Environmental Services and Compliance. And I will be available for questions, and Matt Donovan will be presenting.
Could you say your name again, please?
Clary Kutu.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to make a slight correction. It's for the years 2021 through 2025. Just for the record.
Okay.
And this is Matt Donovan from FDC Engineers. And I had talked to Jen today and told her about the vegetation website. So for any of you who are interested in staying up to date with any of the vegetation activities throughout time, this is a very easy to navigate website where you can find your town's map as well as the 5-year vegetation management plan and annual yearly operational plans for all vegetation activities for Keolis. So the RDA was submitted to your commission as part of CMR 11 and specific sections of CMR 10, which require us to submit the maps of the railroad right-of-way to conservation commissions to confirm the boundaries of the resource areas are accurate. The requirements are part of the 5-year vegetation management plan, which is designed to manage and control vegetation necessary to keep the railroad and the public safe. As the plan is executed, great measures are taken to keep sensitive areas protected, and sensitive areas restricted are listed in detail and can be found in CMR 11.04, which is also Section 8 of the Vegetation Management Plan. The plan is regulated on federally and state and municipal, and as part of the 5-year Vegetation Management Plan, your commission, the Board of Health, the Board of Selectmen, and the Department of Agricultural Resources are supplied annually with the yearly operational plan, which is consistent with the 5-year vegetation management plan and goes into more detail on the vegetation management activities for each year throughout the 5-year program. And this is sent out typically at the beginning of the year, so you should have received that via certified mail. The VMP includes an integrated vegetation management program approach where chemical application as well as physical and mechanical methods are used to combat the vegetation. Best management practices are used throughout the plan in an effort to limit the use of the chemical application, which has been a goal and objective for Keolis. The maps we've provided you with, which you see on the screen, are mainly made for the chemical portion of the plan. The maps are made with USGS and MassGIS layers to determine the boundaries of the sensitive and protected areas. And a list of private wells adjacent to the railroad are updated annually from the Department of Agricultural Resources. The maps don't change very often, and we do keep them updated if there are any changes. But since the last time your commission has approved these maps, there haven't not been any changes, I can confirm. As you can see on the maps, I know it looks black and white for me, but the railroad tracks have yellow and blue zones. It's hard to kind of tell that with the black and white, but it's a color-coded system that the railroad tracks themselves are coded within the field as that correlate exactly to what these maps are showing. So as the operator of the spray truck is performing the application, there's an environmental monitor who's a direct employee of Keolis's environmental team, who is in the truck with these maps, instructing the operator as necessary. And the yellow zones never receive herbicides. And as you can see, a lot of your town is, or I can tell you, a lot of your town is in the blue zone. And in these zones, the environmental monitor is on alert to make sure there's no wet conditions at all. These blue zones are really sprayed on an as needed basis. And there's more of a effort taken to control these zones with physical and mechanical methods. And I think that's really the process right there. And if you guys have any questions, I can open it up to you guys.
Okay. Richard?
Yeah, I'm here. I guess the immediate question is, I don't remember seeing this before. Did I miss it 5 years ago? Or I'm assuming it's done in 5-year increments.
I believe we did get something that we voted on.
Yeah.
If I
Yes.
remember
Yeah.
correctly.
Okay, so I guess my big question, it isn't really a big question, is because this isn't in color, it's really a little hard for me to decipher. But I see several very small patches that are totally white, which would mean, if I'm understanding correctly, there would be no spray in that particular area, or am I misreading it?
That means that there are no restrictions.
Okay.
Is it possible for you to click the link of FDCE railroads so that we can pull the color version of this map?
No.
Okay.
Well, that would be my question for the moment, and the only one for the moment.
Do we have a paper copy of that map colored? is that part of the application? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Doug?
I don't think I have any questions that I can come up with right now.
All right.
I think I'm good.
Move around. Penny?
Nope, I'm all set.
Jen?
Yep, I'm all set. I saw the colored map from their website.
Andy?
I guess I'm looking at the colored version as well. Without taking up too much time, I guess I'd just be a little curious as to how the yellow and light blue zones get determined. I know you mentioned different environmental factors, but just out of curiosity, is there like a brief rundown of how those get determined?
I think it's important to vet this, and any questions that you have
Yeah.
should be answered while we got somebody on here. So,
You want me to take that, Matt?
Yeah.
So back, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago, every railroad designates the same and uses the same color scheme. And the Department of Agricultural Resources, back in, I believe it was 1989 maybe, they came up with the process for the integrated vegetation management plan. And they also utilized and incorporated 310 CMR 10, the buffer zones, the riverfront. So when you go into that FDCE website and you pull on the vegetation management plan, it will tell you precisely what each zone is aligned to protect and how those areas, so if it's 25 feet from, 10 feet from, I don't know it from the top of my head, but I can tell you that all of that is a criteria and requirement standardized under 333 CMR 11. And it takes into account the Wetlands Protection Act for the protection of resource areas.
And you can see that list she was talking about in the vegetation management plan that you have on the website there. It's section 8, which is just the same list that's shown in CMR 11.04.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Brendan?
No questions at this time.
Okay. Amy, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I don't think so. I did attend a presentation with the Mass Commission of Conservation Professionals where Keolis presented to all the different towns, and I'm aware that this is something they're doing for all the towns. And, you know, they're basically, it's part of public safety for the train and the commuter rail, so it appears to meet the requirements of a negative finding as presented.
Do we have any, thank you. Do we have anybody in the audience that wants to speak to this?
Seeing no hands raised.
Can I? Okay. I've got a few questions. So just looking at this map, I'm assuming that the red near the end of the yard is picking up our water resource area, and that's why that's, I don't have a colored map, so that's why that's blocked out. Can anybody tell me that? Yep. Oh,
Yeah, so I think Clary's on mute right now. I think you're unmuted now.
Okay. I'm sorry, Frank, can you repeat the question?
So when you look at there's a line that says yard limits, and then there's an area that's quite dark. And I'm
Yes.
assuming that that's our water resource areas, so.
Right. So that would be, it's hard to read, but that's probably a zone 2, zone 1 protection of water zone area, and that's a double blue. So it's dark blue Usually between the dark blue and the light blue, as you can see, when you start the yard limit, there's light blue all across the entire jurisdiction of Scituate. So there are a lot of potential resource areas and some areas that might be wet at certain times of the year. So our environmental monitor is tasked to make sure they're following the maps very clearly when they're on site, on high rail, but also to evaluate the conditions. So obviously we don't spray if it's raining. We don't spray if there's high winds. But sometimes what we do is also, if within this area, this specific area, there is no need to spray because either vegetation was recently cleared. So we wait a process so that becomes a cyclical method. What we try to do is spray less and maintain more mechanically, because eventually that has a better result at the end. So that's what we call the integrated approach. But that blue zone there, for most part, you will see that unless it's absolutely necessary, which in certain circumstances, it's not really needed, we would not spray in this area because it's such a tight area between that one and the light blue. Only tie to tie. So one clear important factor is that because the roadbed has to be fully clear of vegetation under the federal guidance of FRA, we will always spray downwards from tie to tie because there's no other mechanical means or alternatives to maintain the roadbed clear of vegetation.
Okay, thank you. Do you, big concern has been for agriculture with, say, bees, things like that. Do you get any sort of registration? Does anybody notify you if they have hives in the area? Is this a problem with this treatment, or is it okay?
So we stay within the boundary lines of the railroad. If there are farmlands areas, the environmental monitor knows these maps, knows the areas very well. They've been doing this as our certified applicator has been doing this for more than 20 years. So any areas that are landscaped areas, farmlands, or known areas that we can, easily identify that are areas that we shouldn't be spraying in and around, we will do that regardless of whether it's marked blue or whether it doesn't have any markings on it. So it's really, we don't get any information. Like I don't receive any particular information from, pollinator farms. I'm not sure what you call these.
Okay.
But
yeah, like beekeepers or hives or something like that.
I wouldn't know particularly. They're not marked. But I wouldn't mind if you get that information and you know it as a commission. You can always allow us, an opportunity to update the map if you have the coordinates for it. So we can always update the maps on an annual basis.
Okay.
And every 3 years as well.
And thank you. And do we get an additional notification before you start spraying, or once this is done, does it just go on?
No. Unfortunately, on an annual basis, it's really hard for us to say, Scituate, we're going to be spraying this particular week, because it all depends on the track outages, the different dispatchers, and what time we can get on the tracks. But you can we usually, right after the yearly operating plan 45-day comment period, which probably ends around third week of April, we will put a notice in the Boston Globe And then around the second week of May or the first week of May, depending on how the ground is, we will start the spray schedule. So the spray schedule for pre-emergent will go for about 2 to 3 weeks between May and June. And then the brush spray schedule will go between August, second week of August into September sometimes. But those dates and the information will be included in the yearly operating plan every year. Now, as a result of COVID, we are required by law to send that via certified mail to the Board of Selectmen, to the Commission, to the Board of Health. And that will continue to happen. But also, I worked with Michelle Grisenda and Dot so that they can send that yearly operating plan also via email to all commissioners and agents. That way, nobody misses the opportunity for the 45-day comment period.
Thank you. I'm good. Anybody else want to ask anything additional? I'd take a motion on this.
I make a motion for a -3.
Is that the correct motion for something like this, Amy? Okay. So that's Penny for a motion. A second?
Second, Doug?
Great. Thanks, Doug. So take a vote. Richard,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Penny,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Andy. Did we lose Andy?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yep, got it. Brendan,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Have a
Thanks,
good night.
everyone.
Thank you. Let's see, where are we at? 57 to 61 Seaside Road. Monday, August 31st, during this 5:15 meeting at the Town Hall, the Scituate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Columbia Gas, Massachusetts for determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetlands Bylaw for activities related to gas main extension at properties known as 57 to 61 Seaside Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the town website. So who do we have on for this?
Good evening. My name is Dana Altabello from Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors.
Great. Good evening. Why don't you go ahead and give us the information?
Sure. I'm here representing Columbia Gas of Massachusetts. This RDA is for the proposed replacement of an existing bare steel gas main with a new HDPE pipe along with service connections along portions of Seaside Road. In total, approximately 150 linear feet of gas pipe will be installed, as I mentioned, along with the service connections to the existing residences from 57 through 61 Seaside Road. All work will be done within existing roadways along their shoulders or within maintained yard areas. Portions of the work will take place within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands, along with within barrier beach and land subject to coastal storm flowage. The delineation of the bordering vegetated wetlands was performed by Brad Holmes of Environmental Consulting and Restoration in July of 2020. The gas main replacement will be done using the open trench method. This involves the contractor only opening the length of trench that can be installed and backfilled in one day. So there'll be no open trench left open overnight, and no stockpiles within the resource areas or their buffer zones. Erosion controls will be installed at the limit of work prior to construction. No work will be done during rain events. And since the pipe is underground, there'll be no permanent alteration to the landscape, and there'll be no change in elevation throughout the project area. Since the work will be done during dry weather within existing roadways or along their shoulders, with erosion controls installed at the limit of work and trenches backfilled at the end of each workday, there should be no impacts to the wetland resource areas. I think that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Richard?
No, I don't have any questions right now.
Doug?
I don't, but I suppose this is one I ought to recuse myself on anyways.
I was wondering about that. Okay. Penny?
Nope, I'm all set.
Jen?
I'm good.
Andy?
Good.
Brendan?
No questions.
Amy?
Well, I think that this is good. Nice to see you, Dana. Good job
Thank you.
explaining the project. I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward. And with this project by the utility, definitely, they've got their BMPs, and with closing up the hole and moving along each day, I would say it meets the requirements of a negative finding.
Do we have anybody in the audience for this?
I see no raised hands.
Okay. I don't have any questions. So I'll take a motion.
I make a motion for a -3. Penny.
Okay. And a second?
Second, Richard.
Right. So take a vote. Richard?
Yes.
Doug, I'm going to pass you up. Penny?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
Frank? Yes. Great. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Too.
Thanks.
118 Sedgwick Street.
Cedric Drive, the application.
On Monday, August 31st, 2020, during this 5:15 meeting in the town hall, Situate Conservation Commission will act on the request of James and Teresa Dickey for a determination of applicability to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Situate Wetlands Bylaws for activity related to upgrading a septic system at properties known as 118 Sedgwick Drive, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the town website. Who's presenting this?
Frank, we have a McSweeney is the engineer, but I don't see a McSweeney on the call. So maybe they're under a different name. So if you're presenting on this project, raise your hand and we can unmute you. Or if you're the owner. And I'm not seeing anybody, so I guess that
Do you want to push?
we can go through the project ourselves and without a presenter and ask for abutters if they want to comment, or you could continue it to the next hearing date till we have a presenter, whatever makes you feel comfortable.
Do we just want to push this off to the meeting if somebody comes in?
Yeah, let's push it off and come back around if we see a McSweeney pop up. Maybe they didn't realize our meeting time is early.
Okay.
And
So
just, yeah, go into the next one, which is going to be Mr. Marabito.
okay. On Monday, August 31st, 2020, during the 5:15 meeting in Town Hall, the Situate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Paul Sharon for determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Situate Wetlands Bylaws for activity related to sonotubes for a 3-season porch on property located at 16 Tristing Place, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the town website. So we have Paul Marabito.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Paul.
Hi, Frank. The applicant, Paul Sharon, is the builder who plans to construct a 3-season porch on a sonotube foundation. It's approximately 11 feet by 16 feet. It's at the left rear portion of the existing single-family home. The placement is 88 feet from the edge of the bordered and vegetated wetland and approximately 56 feet from the top of a coastal bank. We show a silt sock on the plan. Any disturbance to the existing lawn would be replaced in like kind accordingly. The access to that Three Seasons porch, I believe, is off the first floor of the house. There are no stairs proposed to go down to the ground. So with that, I'll end and answer any questions any members may have.
Okay. Richard?
Can you come back to me, Frank, please?
Sure. Doug?
It's just the porch, right? That the septic tank that's on there. That's all existing, correct? So it's just the porch on sonotubes.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I don't have any questions. That's a steep lot.
Yes, it is. Penny?
No, I don't have any questions. Looks good.
Ken?
No, I think I'm okay.
Andy?
I'm okay.
Okay. Brendan?
No questions for me today.
All right. Amy?
Yeah, I don't have anything. I mean, I recommended filing the request just because it's work within the buffer in the coastal bank that would trigger filing. But I think they're pre-poured sonotubes and with a minimal work. So I would think it meets the requirements of a negative finding.
Okay. Do we have anybody in the audience for this one? I'm not seeing anybody.
Seeing no hands made.
So
But I see McSweeney just popped up though, so
yeah,
that's good.
we'll come back to that one in a second. So the only thing I noticed on this one was a shed that's right down on the edge of I guess right along the wetlands. Is that something that's proposed or is that existing?
Oh, that's existing. That's something we located during our survey.
Okay. That's it for me. It's pretty straightforward. You want to give me a motion? Anybody want to do a motion on this?
I make a motion for a -3.
Thanks,
Any?
Penny.
Second, Doug.
Great. So take a vote. Richard?
I'm fine.
Doug?
Good. Yes.
Penny?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
Frank, yes. Okay. Good enough. Thank you, Paul.
Okay, have a good evening.
Want to go back to Sedgwick Drive?
Yeah, I just
Hello.
unmuted Colin.
Hello there. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Hi, Colin.
I was having some internet issues. I had to run down the street and hook up to another one. So.
Well, we're glad we got you.
Yes, I appreciate it.
You want to fill us in on this?
Yeah. So this one's pretty straightforward. It's a Title V upgrade over on Sedgwick Drive. There is a wetland around the back of the property as well as a flood zone. What we have going in here is it's just a tank to a field, but we're also proposing treatment to this as well. So that's going to reduce the amount of nitrogen that goes into the water, which is also helpful because the water going into the wetland will also just be better. There is a small wall because there is high groundwater out there. We had to put a retaining wall on the side facing the wetland because of sloping issues. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. Is there any questions?
Richard?
I think I'm okay on this.
Doug?
I'm I don't think I have any questions either. What type of, just more curiosity, which type of treatment system is this?
It's the Singular TNT 500. Basically, it just reduces the amount of nitrogen that goes through before, and we didn't have to put a pump system out here, which is nice too. It just runs through there, reduces the amount of nitrogen, and then just runs straight downhill.
Got it. Yeah, no, thank you.
Penny?
Yeah, my only problem is I wish the leaching fields didn't have to, I mean, that's part of it. Almost half of it's in the 50-foot. But I don't, is that where the existing leaching field is? And you're just doing a new tank?
So the leaching fields out back, it
Yeah.
failed Title V, and I think there were actually, it's been broken for a while, so I think they've had some issues with the water coming out of ground and stuff like that. And it was also in the groundwater, the existing one. And all the plumbing comes out that side, and it would just be easier and more cost efficient, basically, just to put it out back there. And we're putting, like I said, the treatment as well, which greatly decreases. It basically brings it down to drinking water standards. Not saying you should drink it, but I'm pretty sure afterwards it brings it down to drinking water standards.
Well, that makes me feel better that it, because I just hate to see that in the 50 like that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
If you, yeah. I'm not going to drink the water, but I'm glad to know that if an animal gets in it, they could drink it.
Exactly.
All right. Jen?
Yeah, I mean, same feelings as Penny. I wish there was like a slightly different location for that, but I definitely understand your reasoning, Colin.
Thank you.
I don't know if there's any mitigation planting or anything that we would want to do.
The field itself is outside the 50. It's just the retaining wall that goes within the 50.
Yeah, I still care about something being in the 50, whether it's a retaining wall or because it's, the disturbed ground being different.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, it was existing lawn, so it's not like we're destroying any vegetation as well.
That's true.
Okay. Andy?
No, it's been covered. I'm good.
Brendan?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Amy?
Yeah, nothing really. I mean, I think it's a significant upgrade from what Colin described if there's breakout and it's in the groundwater. So this will be a pretty major improvement, and I would think it meets the requirements of a negative finding.
Do we have anybody in the audience for this one? Okay. I really,
hands.
yeah, I don't really have any questions. I get the plumbing already existing in the house and bring it out and not adding more mechanical equipment. So I think this is acceptable here. I'll take a motion.
Has it met with Board of Health? That's my only question.
It's been approved by Board of Health.
Oh, okay, thank you. I make a motion to close.
Great, thanks. Second?
Second, Doug?
Okay. I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
You can't close this.
No, I'm sorry. That's a mistake.
Why can't we?
Do I have a motion for Penny?
Yeah, it's a
Give
negative.
me a motion for a -3.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I jumped the gun. I jumped the gun.
I make a motion for a negative.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks for the keep us on track here. Great. So I'll take a vote. Richard?
There I am. Yes, fine.
Doug?
Yes.
Penny?
-3. Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
Frank, yes. Sorry about the confusion.
No, it's all good. Sorry about showing up late.
All right, Colin, we'll
we'll
let
let
you
you
know
take
when
the
that's
hit.
ready.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
All right, so now we're going to move to the NOIs. 39 Brunswick Street.
is continued.
They want to continue, right?
Is that already
10-5.
open?
Yes.
Yes.
That's already been open. So they want to continue that to
I make a motion to continue to October 5th.
I'll take a second.
Second, Andy.
Richard,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Penny,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Thank you. 1 Hollitt Street. Who's presenting?
Oh, I was going back and forth with Darren Grady, but I don't see Darren on here, but I do see Paul Seberg. So maybe Paul. Although we also talked about continuing it because we had just got last minute comments from the consulting engineer who was reviewing the stormwater. So if no one's on the call for this, I think it will just continue it to October 5 to the next available meeting.
So nobody's on from Grady Consulting.
That's what I'm saying.
I'll make a motion to continue it to 10-5.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, Richard,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Penny,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Okay, 65 Walnut Hill. That's a Grady one as well.
And I'm unmuting Jeremy Whitelock and trying to get Paul Seberg.
Hi, this is Jeremy. I think Tim Bennett was the representative from Grady Consulting.
Oh, okay. He should be on now.
Yeah, this is Tim. Can you hear me?
Got you. Okay, Tim, do you want to proceed?
Sure. So I'm representing Mr. Whitelock, who's here with us in the ether. And this project is a proposed pool adjacent to his single-family dwelling in the backyard. Wetlands resource area is delineated by John Zimmer, BVW. The concrete patio around the pool is proposed to be located 55 feet from the BVW within the previously developed rear lawn. The closest point of the limit of work is 52.7 feet from the bordering vegetated wetland. The project will disturb approximately 3,000 square feet of the buffer zone, and installation of the pool will require excavation of approximately 120 yards of soil and approximately 90 yards of fill. No work is proposed in the 50-foot buffer zone, and the disturbed areas are proposed to be returned to lawn, anything that's not concrete patio, of course. That's pretty much it. You happy to entertain any questions?
Richard?
No, I don't think I have any questions. It's all outside the 50. I don't think I have any questions.
Doug?
I think just a clarification question, like the proposed silt sock, is that the line depicted with the X's in it?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so that's the erosion control.
Correct.
So it goes up and around all the way, encompassing the conservation posts. Are those existing, or putting those in?
We put those in as proposed. I can take them out if you like.
No, I was just curious about the location of them. Like, where do we usually require those, Frank?
It varies. Were these conservation posts something that went in with these houses when Walnut Tree Hill was built?
You know, I did some research on the subdivision and the file, and definitely, if you look at aerial photographs of this lot, it doesn't look like it did then, like it does today. You know what I mean? Like it's definitely the owners. I think that this house changed hands within the last couple of years recently. Probably Jeremy can speak to when, but anyways, I think he inherited the backyard that he had with it. Definitely it was enlarged. The tree line was a lot closer to the house. But then I think the owner before this owner created more of a backyard into the buffer, but still retaining a fair amount of trees within the, outside the 50. So I don't know. There weren't conservation posts then at that time because these were built in the early 2000s.
Yeah, this is Jeremy. We just moved into this house a little under a year ago, so we inherited the lawn and haven't done anything with the lawn so far.
When you say haven't done anything with the lawn, just you're maintaining it?
Correct. We are cutting and watering until the water restrictions. Now it's a nice golden brown.
So to the answer to the question about the buffer zone, I would have thought we'd have to look back were there orders for this house?
Not specifically for this house. It was for the subdivision.
Yeah.
It's the Walnut Hill subdivision. And when they built the house itself, they managed to keep it out of the 100. But I mean, it definitely, like, there was not a permit pulled for instance, this patio that they have, which is like a beautiful cook area, And I think there's a deck too. I mean, I don't think we saw permits necessarily come in afterwards on these things. So this is a legit notice of intent for a real in-ground pool with a lot of fill. But I mean, I think it is something that we can approve within the parameters that they're giving us, and the wetland line, the delineation, hasn't changed a whole heck of a lot since the subdivision went in. There's a pretty nice break and slope going down to the wetland area. So.
Doug, does that answer what you asked?
Yeah, no, yeah, I was just trying to just clarify that. I mean, there's a tree line on there. It says wooded area, and then says overgrown brush in the backyard, and the lowest conservation post is probably maybe 10 feet from the wetland line.
Right.
And it just in other ones we've wanted at least at 25 feet or. But I also don't like the idea of those posts being in the travel area where people can,
It hurt.
Like it. But I don't. But it's not really a lawn. So I was just trying to get a picture of the idea. And I don't really have a concern with the plan at all. I was just wondering if you'd want to pull that post if we had a policy about a minimum of 25 feet or anything like that from the.
Well, I mean, I think, Doug, the answer is that not this owner, but the previous owner cleared into this 50 buffer.
Okay.
And
now it's just kind of growing back up.
Yeah.
I get you. Okay.
I mean, and I think that clearly our bylaw says 50 feet is your no disturb. That's your no touch. But they've obviously given themselves a little bit of a backyard.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you might think about trying to restore some of that area to reclaim it. I mean, that could be something you could condition in return for putting in the pool in the buffer. I don't know. That's just a thought.
Yeah, I didn't mean to complicate it. It was just, that's all. I was just trying to make, I haven't seen the site, so I was just trying to make sense out of the location of that post, but I can kind of see it's along the wooded area, which makes sense that you'd put that there. So So I'm done taking up everyone's
Okay.
time.
Any?
Oh, no, I'm all set. I don't have a problem. I just hope nobody clears any more property.
Jen?
I definitely appreciated all of Doug's commentary, so thank you. Because it probably would have been something I would have gotten to. I totally support the conservation posts and Amy's thoughts on any sort of restoration work or plantings, given that the pool is in the buffer. So that's it for me.
Just of note too, Jen, and everybody really, is that I'm not sure if Tim pointed out that they had submitted a first version of this pool plan that did go into the 50. So based on comments that we provided on initial review, that they did pull it out. And
Okay.
so that was a gain. Because the first version of this, you guys really would not have liked, because it did go in. So we appreciate the fact that they did attempt to pull most of it or all of it out of it, really. So
Thanks, Amy. I appreciate hearing that changes have already been made.
Andy?
Yeah, I'm glad it's out of the 50. I guess I would entertain if people had a good suggestion on somehow marking the line, because the pool is kind of flirting with the 50. That patio is getting close, so there's places that could find their way in there. I'd be open to that, but I'm glad it's out of the 50, so I'm good.
Brendan?
I've got nothing to add, actually, right now.
Okay, thank you. Amy?
I think I've added already.
Okay. Do we have anybody in the audience for this?
Seeing no hands raised.
Okay. So, Mr. Whitelock, just obviously you've had discussions with your engineer and had explained our buffer zones. So we have a 50 and 100. Basically, we don't want to disturb anything in the 50, but anything within 100 is in jurisdiction of the commission. And the subdivision is relatively new. And at the time that they built the subdivision, the developer tried to stay outside of the buffer zones. And then subsequently, folks own the house and make improvements and start to move towards the buffer, which is kind of typical. And in this case, it looks like they did a fair amount of clearing into the 50. So technically that's a violation. It's not built on and it's lawn or grass, so that's helpful. But the goal is to try to protect as much of that 50-foot from the wetlands so that we don't wind up with, say, pesticides or fertilizers or anything that get put down on the lawn, getting into the 50-foot or getting into the wetlands. And right where that conservation post is, the lawn's within 10 feet of a wetlands flag, I think, if I'm right. So I guess my question would be, and leading back to where Doug was, is there something that we should ask that allow to revegetate part of that lawn to get away from that proximity to the wetland?
Basically anything within the 50 radius. The only challenge we have on that is there's a place set right next to the porch. And I'm guessing probably about half of it is within, if I'm looking at this correctly, would be within that 50. But honestly, everything to the left, it's not, it hasn't been touched. It's probably about, I'm guessing about 10 feet ish of where the place set is, and then everything that I guess is west of it has not been touched.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I just wanted to point out, make sure it's clear, because it's not so clear on the plan, unfortunately, is that that overgrown brush area is definitely not lawn. There's
Okay.
actually, I drew in the bottom of slope and top of slope. You can see the labels up to the top above the pool. And that's a very substantial drop off. It's like a 3 to sometimes 4 foot drop off from the lawn down into this. It's poison ivy, briars, and stinging nettle, I can attest. So that area that was cleared, perhaps a previous owner intended to maybe make it lawn, but it's definitely not. He would have had to fill it in really to incorporate it as part of the lawn. So the lawn definitely is not. Only in the very bottom corner there, where it encroaches into the 50, is actually lawn that's in the 50.
So I'm seeing a little dotted line and then the word lawn written in near.
That'd be the edge of lawn.
Okay, so maybe that post ought to be just opposite where that says lawn, where the somewhere just a little closer towards the post. I really don't know the picture of that exactly, but try to keep just in that area somewhere that post ought to be. And then is there a reason that the other post is back so far?
Only my my effort to provide what have been told here in the office has been previously required by your commission, is that you like to have the posts in there, and because the brush is generally waist high, and then you're really in upland forest beyond that tree line. Just kind of looking for a place to delineate it and prevent people from incurring into the 50. But the location of those is definitely not set in stone. We'd be happy to place them wherever you'd like.
Anybody have any thoughts on that? I don't have a strong feeling. I just want to try to protect as much of that buffer as we can.
Could I speak?
Yeah.
Oh, I would like to see it 25 feet off the 50-foot buffer zone, the post.
Okay.
Come in, it's just,
Okay. Well, why don't we just see if we can mark a spot when we do the orders that's somewhat closer and work with that.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
So do you want to, we could just close and put in something like at the discretion of Conservation Commission?
Well, work it out with the owner, and I'm not trying to move them too close. I just think we ought to try to protect that a little bit better.
Yeah.
And we appreciate the other work that the owner's done in terms of the pool and whatnot. So as long as, all right.
Right, but you don't want to see the area grow, and
Right.
and you want to try to reestablish the buffer to the extent that you can, even if it's just not cutting back that vegetation that's in that 50-foot no disturb,
Right.
letting it continue to grow.
Yep. Or if they want to come back with some sort of plan, if somebody down the road said, gee, this has got a lot of invasives in it or whatever, the commission's open to having some discussion. If it could be revegetated in a way that's better habitat or something, we're happy to talk about that.
Right, something that's nicer to look at, or even like high bush blueberry or native species like that would be nice.
Okay, that's good to know, because it definitely is kind of an eyesore. So that's good to know that there's some flexibility.
Yeah,
Well,
we're open to those sort of discussions, and it's just getting someone in there that could say, here's the correct plantings that could be beneficial.
Well, and I mean, I think that it might be, if that's how you're leaning, that you do want to try to vegetate that with like some native species, I think maybe we can put a condition in that allows you to do that under this order. So you wouldn't have to come file again. You know what I mean? Like, as much as we love the business, we could just work in a condition and handle it that way.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, I see that being a project we'd probably want to tackle maybe next year sometime. So that would be really beneficial for us.
All right. So I guess I could take a motion.
Close and order and issue. I'll make a motion to close and issue anyway with the comments we just discussed about the post in revegetating.
Do I have a second?
Second, Doug.
Great. So for a vote, Richard,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Penny,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. 8 Newell Street.
Thank you. And thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
Okay, for this one, Christopher Wynn and Grady Paul Seberg, I think this is the one that he's on, so I'm going to try to get them on the line.
Hey, Frank.
Yes.
Richard here. You may recall that I have to recuse myself on 8 Newell.
Okay. I'm seeing Bob Crawford as the engineer.
Hi, folks. Chris Wynn here, the owner of 8 Newell. So there are two items.
Let me just open this first, Mr. Wynn, okay?
Yeah, we've already,
This is a continued, isn't it?
yeah.
Oh, I've got the
is
dock and ramp. So what are we doing? The pool first?
No. The pool is, I think this is what Chris is about to say, but the pool, we haven't received anything new. We did the site inspection out there, but this is the date that we continued it from a hearing, I think, in the beginning of July. Or no, I guess we continued it from July 20th till today, but we don't have anything really necessarily to discuss on this one. So we were going to continue this to another date and go right into the dock, is what my understanding is.
Thanks, Amy. That's exactly what I was going to suggest. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to continue 8 Newell, the pool, till October 5th, Amy.
Sounds good.
Do I have a second?
Second, Doug.
Okay. So Richard, you're reclusing yourself. Doug, just
Yes.
second it. Penny,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Okay, thank you. So now I can open the one on the dock and the ramp. Okay. On August 31st, 2020, 5:15 meeting, Town Hall, Situate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700, Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Christopher Wynn to install a dock and ramp and float at location at 18 Newell Street, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted at the town website. Okay. Do you want to go ahead and explain this project?
Sure. Is Paul Seberg here as well?
Yes, I'm here. Can everybody hear me?
Hi,
Okay,
Paul.
yeah.
Perfect. So basically the site now consists of an existing single-family dwelling and also above-ground pool located on the top of the plan there. There's an existing top-up bank that runs along an existing concrete wall and also a salt marsh resource area. The site is located in an AE elevation 13 as well as an AE elevation 10. What the applicant would like to do is construct a 259-foot long dock section with a 45-foot long ramp down to a 10-foot by 20-foot wide long float. We are proposing to relocate an existing mooring, and we've been coordinating with the owner of that mooring in order to do so. We have met with the harbor master to review the location of the proposed float, and he was okay with everything that we submitted. And I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. And Richard, you're out on this one, right? So Doug?
This is a Chapter 91.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's mean high water elevation in this area?
So mean high water, oh, sorry.
No, I see a mean low. Well, mean low tide we had. Is there a, oh, there it is. Okay, never mind. I just saw it.
Right.
Got it. Yeah, okay. So that demarks your, got it.
The elevation
The
3.9.
yeah, that's your riverfront area. So, okay. Yeah, I noticed that the elevation datum's different than on
the other plan?
On the other plan, yeah. So
Right.
I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around that to answer some of those questions that people might have. So, so now I'm done.
Okay.
I'm good.
Penny?
Yes, I have a couple of questions here. First and foremost, the mooring you would like to relocate. I think you're mistaken. You, the people that mooring belongs to, they are not going to relocate it. So in looking at your plan, why don't you relocate your dock and walkway to the corner of your property? If you face from the river to the right corner there, and if you came down there, then you'd be out of their way of their existing mooring. Why have you placed it where you placed it? I guess I'm asking.
So one of the guidelines is basically you need to be 25 feet off of the extension of the property line.
Okay.
So that's what we're trying to maintain on that. If you're looking at the plan, the way it's shown here, that right side. So we're trying to maintain that 25-foot that distance there.
But the owner of the mooring, I spoke with them today, and they are not willing to move their mooring. They have waited many years to get it, and they have it now. And are you going to pay for them to move it? I mean, my understanding with them as of this afternoon was they had no intentions of moving that.
Okay, so this is Chris here. That one's news to me. I spoke to Russell Clark, who manages the moorings, and the harbor master, and there's an available slot for them 50 yards to the 20 yards to the other side of the existing dock. You see to the right of, well, the left, if you're the existing dock that's there with the boats on it. And
I'm just telling you what I was told by the owners of that mooring. Okay, so I think you have an issue there before we, I'd like to see where you have permission to move that before we approve something on top of an existing mooring.
Well, certainly fair enough.
Yeah. That's my biggest comment. I do have a little bit of an aside here that I'm very confused in looking at this plan today. That Newell Street goes all the way down to the river. And when we were out there, I mean, it's an easement, it's a right of way, I'd say, for the neighborhood. But when we were out there at your house, there was all vegetation on the street side where nobody could get through there. I was just wondering, because I did not realize that until I was looking at the plan. And it shows up on the plan, the pictures. And I just found that very interesting because we were talking about the vegetation when we were out there in front of your house, what you could do there. In the suggestions we gave, I didn't realize that that's actually in a right of way.
So
I've got some issues with your, the plans right now.
That of course all predates me, the side and everything there. I understand that the town filled that in from the neighbor many years ago. I can get some detail, but of course in the other matter that with respect to the pool that we're looking into, the one of the mitigation conditions that we were suggesting is that we would clean that up on behalf of everybody. If, of course, if the
Yeah.
abutters
Yeah,
agreed
no,
to
right.
it.
Well, we was
Yeah.
talking about it, but I was just shocked when I saw the plan, and I looked at it closely and I said, it says Newell Street goes right to the South River, but it's all vegetated in front of your house.
Yeah, well, it would actually be between the two houses, and I'm
Yeah,
not
right,
sure of the
right,
history.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's not open to the public. I was just very surprised. But my biggest problem right now is where you want to put your dock, that there is an existing mooring, and I feel as though that needs to be cleared up with the owner.
Certainly.
And we need something in writing before we give you permission to put something on top of them.
Of course, I understand that.
Yeah.
And you can't see in the picture here, but if you see where the existing mooring is there, and then the one right behind it, then there's also an abundance of space to just to the south of the last boat that you see.
Yeah.
So one of the things that the person that manages the moorings of the South River said is that along with the harbor masters, that they could potentially just be scooted down that way a little, obviously, if everybody agrees to it. And we would agree and had already offered that we would, pay for the relocation of the moorings.
Okay, well, I'd like to see that before I close this hearing. I mean, I just don't like to stomp on somebody.
Nor would we. Yeah, it's so I didn't speak to the person firsthand. It was kind of through the individual that does all the moorings. So I guess there's something we got to clear up over there.
Well, I think it has to be straightened out.
Okay.
That's all for me, Frank.
That sounds like enough.
I think so.
Jen?
I don't think I could have anything else to add.
Andy?
I'm okay now.
Brendan?
And he took all of my questions. I'm okay.
Amy?
Okay, so just a few things. I mean, it's a dock project, so, they can't go forward with the Chapter 91 license without the orders. So that's what they're looking for in order to get their state license, because it's really a waterways project. But I was, a couple of things that I just wanted to note were that because we have this other NOI pending, and questions that we had on that other NOI revolved around the resource areas. And so I don't want this plan to confirm the resource areas that we're still under review for the landward project. And then also to what extent the bulkhead is getting repaired and replaced. We did get letters from like DMF, from fisheries, and they had comments about the height of the dock. So they did go back to Grady, and it's now taller because it needs to be taller because of the seagrass. But otherwise, I guess Penny's point's well taken about the property lines and how can you build something if you've got something in the way. Maybe we should hold off till that's resolved. But I also think that if we did close an issue, that we would want to note that we're not agreeing to the resource areas as depicted on the plan, or not confirming them at a minimum.
Okay. Do we have anybody in the audience for this one?
Just raise your hand. I did get a call today, actually from somebody in the neighborhood or in a butter that also questioned the mooring. I didn't get a chance to speak to the person, but there was something about that too. But I'm thinking that maybe there are people on this call that are interested, because
If we got anybody putting their hand up?
No.
Okay. One question I have, I'm looking at the aerial photo and the dock that's adjacent to this this project. It doesn't show it extending out so far, but it seems like it actually extends further. I'm just wondering why that wasn't on the drawing.
So it wasn't on the drawing because actually the extension that goes out there is all floats. There's
I
floats
see.
tied together. So they weren't actually in at the time of the survey. So that's why I didn't show them.
Got it.
You can see how they are based on the aerial.
So they actually stop at that location.
Yeah, if you look at the covered roof of
Mhm.
that, the ramp starts about 6 to 8 feet, maybe 10 feet after. Yeah. So you're at the bottom of the ramp right there.
I see it. Okay. Yep, that makes sense.
Frank?
Yes.
I think we do have someone that's trying to make a comment here. Heather Bryan? I saw them raise their hand.
There we go. I'm unmuted finally. Thank you. My name is Paul Bryan, and that you've referenced that property line to the right. That's our property line at 11 Concord Street. We're obviously very interested.
I'm sorry. So just give me your name again and your address.
Yeah, it's Paul Bryan, address of 11 Concord Street.
Okay.
So we're abutters, if you will. That the property line that you referenced to the right of the proposed dock is our property line. So yeah, so in our house is kind of tilted that way, so that any closer to our property line, that thing's right in our front yard, really. So I'm very concerned about that comment about moving that further to the right, or to our right as we view it, for one.
Okay.
And just on the height of it, just in relation to the existing dock that's to the left of this proposed dock, just for reference, is this proposed to be higher or lower than that, or what's the do we know?
It's going to be at a very similar elevation, probably about 1 foot higher than their existing dock.
1 foot higher. Okay. Again, our concern is, the wildlife in there, and, bringing in all the heavy machinery to construct a dock. But I guess that's, I don't know, that's beyond us to worry about. I guess that's up to the compensation committee. But, again, hey, to be honest, this thing's right in our front yard. Our money view, the sun sets over that way, and that's our money view. So it's, the construction of this dock may greatly, affect the value of our home. So, we're concerned about it.
So, Amy, can you just explain the process for this? What's our jurisdiction, and then what this will go on to with the Chapter 91?
Well, yeah. So, Chapter 91 is wetlands and waterways, and so they are the ones that permit anything over the sea. So they've got criteria that they look to be, meet in order to permit a new dock, and they're very specific on what they will and won't allow, with other agencies weighing in, like for the question about the height of the dock. So the dock, I believe, is a minimum of 6 feet above the seagrass, because the seagrass is protected, and they're also very specific about how you're going to install the posts and to minimize the damage to the resource areas. What Scituate Conservation really, we're looking at, so the state is jurisdictional with under the water in those resource areas, but so where it meets the ground, or the coastal bank and the coastal dune and barrier beach, that would probably be the portion of the project that we should be weighing in on most. I don't know if that helps, Frank.
Oh, that's good. Thank you.
No, and again, I know that that's not for our concern to, you guys got that under control, but just, we're vested, parties to this dock going in.
Sure.
I also had a question. I'm Heather Bryan, Paul's wife. We just had a question about, and this might not be in your jurisdiction. I'm curious, Amy, to know if you know of anything about this, but the dock, the existing dock to the left, that dock has like 8 boats on it right now. If another dock goes in, is there a limit on the number of boats that can float around that dock? And I'm just thinking futuristically, what does the future of the river look like if there's no regulation on these docks and the amount of boats that can be tied up around them? So if another 8 goes in on this dock, there's 16 boats right there out in front of 2 residential areas. So I'm just curious who presides over that, who regulates that, or maybe it's something that's not regulated.
Well, no, I think it's regulated. Thank you for your question. I would say that you should definitely write comments to Dave Hill at Wetlands and Waterways down at DEP in Lakeville, and then also reach out to Steve Moan, Harbor Master for Scituate, about, what the waterways
to the harbor master, sorry to interrupt, and he basically said because it's a chapter 91 or I don't know, whatever it's called, that's not his jurisdiction because it's connected to the property, and that's basically an extension of the property. So he, I think, termed it like, so it's basically a driveway and you can put many cars in your driveway as you want. So it's kind of like, oh, gee, is that really right? But if that's the rules, that's the rule. I don't know.
Excuse me for 1 second. So Amy, with the number of boats on it, and I'm not sure that that's our jurisdiction, but to try to get someone an answer, we have a Waterways Commission.
Correct.
The town of Scituate has a Waterways Commission, and they review these projects as well. And then they should also be looking at like navigable areas. And I thought that the harbor master did look at this, just like the moorings and other locations. I mean, he's the one that's got to look and see whether these boats are the right size on a mooring. Are they impeding other boats? So I guess I might reach out to, say, the Waterways Commission and just ask those questions about how many boats should be there or what should be placed there. And I guess also to Amy's point, I mean, if too many boats are on this, could it get dislodged or something like that? Again, that's something that we don't control, but I would think it's important to somebody. If you have that number of boats tied up on that sort of thing, can it actually sustain that? And I don't know the answer to that. But to your question about machinery and equipment and disturbance, that's part of the things that the commission looks at. And I'm wondering, is there anything within this application right now that there's like a means and methods? Unfortunately, with the Zoom piece, we're not seeing as much of the detail. So I'm not seeing a detail of the pilings and how all that's going in. Maybe the engineer could speak to that a little bit.
Right. So on this type of project, there's going to be some access from the river, as well as most likely on a barge, as well as some access from the land to access some of these piles that up closer to the house. So basically, construction from the river is going to be on a barge. You're going to make sure the barge doesn't ground at any point in time on the tidal flats, and all the work will be done to coincide with the tides. And from the landward side, access to the site is going to have to be from behind the house, coming around to, if you're looking at the plan, to the right of the house, and coming around on the upper portion of that retaining wall there in order to drive the piles for that portion of the site.
Does that help at all?
Does it answer the question about the bulkhead and what you're doing on a bulkhead, Paul?
I'm not too, is that part of the other project, Amy, or is that part of this project? We don't, I don't, we're not proposing to do anything along the existing retaining wall on this one.
Okay. That's what, we
But I'm
had
not
another
sure what
one
the
on
other
River
filing was.
Street that was bulkhead and dock. So, but on this one, it's
Okay.
just dock. So bulkhead is,
Right.
is different. Okay, great.
Correct.
And folks, if I may comment as well, so one of the things just to note with the size of the float that's out there, it's I think Paul, 20 feet long.
25 feet long. 26, I'm sorry.
Okay. So as you see the dock adjacent, and I see what you're talking about, because it's obviously right in my line of sight, being that it's at an angle coming right out. So when I look out my family room and my deck, I look right into the covered porch. So just a couple things to share. One is that we're not ever intending to have a marina down there, and that's why the float isn't a T-shaped float with things coming from each angle. It just literally, we have one small boat and then one small whaler for my children. So it's not, we're not proposing to, and based on the location, I don't believe the harbor master would even allow having like a T-shaped float in that location, according to our meeting with him.
I was going to say, if it's any consolation, there's no gazebo or anything planned at the end of this. What is that other dock? Is that a marina, or
No, it's just an existing dock. The next door neighbor has had the dock there for I don't know how many years.
Okay.
I recall seeing it as a kid driving by on the boat.
Okay. I'm trying to think of what else we can add to this.
I guess if I could ask another question. So and I appreciate everyone's questions and concerns and everything too. With respect to the height, does the height of the dock need to be the same height from the crossing the salt marsh as it does coming all the way out to the high tide line, or whatever is bringing out to there? Is there the ability to drop that down to have better sight visibility going across it? Like, what are the environmental factors that are driving height and having it as like one, at one height? And is there any, and does it have to be a straight line? Does it have to be all one height? I can connect with Paul afterwards on these, but just, I don't know if there's anything that the commission can share on that.
So just to get in, if this were on the North River, the North River Commission has some jurisdiction over that they try to, it's a really small slot between trying to keep the dock high enough so the grass grows underneath the dock where it goes over the marsh, and then to try to, for visibility, so it doesn't, it has an aesthetic appeal. It's really tight what the North River Commission allows, and then what's required for sunlight. But it was my understanding, and we don't really have the jurisdiction over that when you get to your Chapter 91 piece, that it has to do with impeding flow of the river. If there's debris, if there's other things like that, that if the dock is set too low, it can actually impede water flow. And I don't really have a real strong answer with that. And maybe between you and the engineer, you can discuss that and see whether you can drop it some. But I believe there's some regulation to that as well.
Yeah, I guess the reason I asked the question is if we're trying to impede, if the goal is to avoid the impeding the flow, and the dock that's next to it with this T shape is at water level, at ground level, for a portion of the dock, would there be any, would, can that ramp go in
But
further?
it's, I don't think it's there it's not there year round. I didn't see that when I first looked at it. So it's removed, a good portion of that's removed off season. So it's not out there when there's ice flowing in the river and things like that. So I think that's part of the discussion when you do all this is, that river during the winter can have chunks of ice and all that flowing up and down the river, so that I think there's a goal that doesn't block up the river as well. But I that's kind of outside of our purview.
I can add to this a little bit as far as the elevations. One of the requirements is going to be to have a minimum of 5 feet above the high water line to allow for, public rights for fishing and access throughout the river. So you need to keep that 5-foot clearance at high water. So that's why it basically has to set probably a minimum of elevation 9 or 9.5 to get that 5-foot clearance there. And then Division of Marine Fisheries is looking for the additional clearance above the salt marsh for light reasons. So that's why we set the elevation as we did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? So do we need to continue this? Or can there be some sort of condition that I don't know what to work out with this mooring piece. I mean, if we condition it and then it has to be relocated, that's a problem.
I would like that resolved before we close.
Yeah, I think that's fair and that makes sense, of course.
Any idea how long that will take?
Well, I can tell you that I will make a phone call right after the meeting.
I'm sure. Do we want to move it to the next meeting? What do we have on the agenda for our next meeting?
I think we could move it till the next meeting.
Okay. All right, Penny.
Motion to continue 8 Newell Street dock until October.
Oh, September 21st.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, we're going to do this September 21st. Okay.
That's our next meeting. Chris, is that enough time?
We moved out till the October 5th, so.
Right, but
We're both together?
Well, for the 21st, we're pretty full, but I think that there's not much more to discuss on this one. So if we're just trying to resolve some property line stuff.
Either one's fine with me.
Does somebody else want to make a motion other than Penny?
I make a motion that we continue it to September 21st.
Second, Doug.
Great. So for a vote, Richard, oh, you can't vote. Doug again? Yep.
Yes.
Penny?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
Frank? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, what else do we have?
We've got approval of draft minutes, and Penny wanted to add a brief discussion about orders for 780 First Parish.
I make a motion that we accept the orders of condition as written for 8-3.
I'll second it.
That was who?
Richard?
Draft minutes, you mean?
Yeah.
We don't need them.
So Penny moved and Richard second. Are we okay with that? Yeah. So Richard, for a vote.
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Penny?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
Frank? Yes. Okay. And then Penny, you want to talk about 780 First Parish?
Yes, I would like to. 780 First Parish is a project that we started last summer, I think, and it finished up in the winter. Jerry Dwight's, and there was a wetlands crossing, and he had mitigation that needed to be done. Well, sad to say, Jerry passed away very unexpectedly 2 weeks ago in his sleep, and the same day, his wife, the realtor, called and said, I have a buyer for that property. And so anyways, in looking it over, she had called me because she was concerned that one of the orders stated that you couldn't get a building permit. Of course, the buyer wants a building permit on this property until the wetlands mitigation was done. Now, they are willing, instead of doing it up front, putting in escrow a fair amount of money so we don't get burnt again. Because I explained to her the reason we had asked for that was that sometimes we have people that don't follow through, and that's a very important thing that has to be done, that replication. So I had, in speaking to his wife, I said that I would be more than happy to bring it up to the board. I don't really like to make exceptions for people, but this is such an unforeseen thing that happened, and she's kind of unexpectedly in a turmoil. And I would love to see if we could help get this off her plate, let this purchase go through, because they are willing to put up a good sum in escrow or a bond, whatever the board would like to do. So that's kind of, I told her I would bring it to the board and see how you people felt about it.
Okay. Can we just go down through the order? Or Amy, do you want to speak to it first? Or do you want to see what commission members?
Well, I mean, I can speak to it really quick. We've talked about a guaranteed fund. You know, we could do that. In fact, when in the old days they would make that a guarantee of the orders as issued. You know, you'd have a guaranteed deposit amount if you had a replication, which is based on the value of the plants. I mean, so it's like, it definitely, that was the way that projects could be handled. Or you could put a special condition that says, you know, again, like crafted in a way that the work is done, so you guarantee that it's done before they get a building permit. Because usually, like say 31 Common Street is an example. We give them the orders, they build the house, they get in, you know, like furnish the house, they do everything that they want to do to the house, and then the replication is last, you know, and then all of a sudden you've got a homeowner trying to throw some plants in, and then you have a 3-year growing period, and then all of a sudden they want to sell the property, and now nothing's been planted, and they're looking for a certificate of compliance. So it's a smoother process overall if the replication is done right out of the gate, you know what I mean? And this one is just like, you know, lots of properties out there right now where it's a little bit more difficult to develop them because you have to get into the highland. So they're going over the wetland or over a stream. So they're doing a crossing. There's going to be quite a bit of work just to get into this highland. And that would be the time that they would do, do the replication. But so to take a guarantee, I mean, they're going to need money to get a house design. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know how they're going to get a building permit without a house design, because I'm quite sure that they don't have a building permit, like an application with a design. So I think that there's a number of things that the new owner will need to cross on their undertaking of building this property out. But I think we could definitely take an amount to guarantee that they do the work as is done in other projects. So.
Okay. Richard, do you have any questions for that?
I don't have any questions. I really think that this is really is one of the unusual cases you might run into, and if we can get the money put away as in the form of a guarantee by having money in escrow, then I think that should be allowed in this particular case.
Okay. Doug?
Yeah, I mean, I understand the circumstances there. Yeah. I think it would be a good thing. I think that would work. So yeah, I'm okay with it.
Okay. Jen?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I did definitely appreciate Amy's additional comments though around the other challenges or needs that this new owner would have to take on. So it was good to hear that as well.
Andy?
Yeah, I think I'm okay with it if we feel like it will be the guarantee we need. I mean, it sounds like maybe it used to be done this way. Is there a reason we switched away from doing it that way?
Honestly, I think one of the reasons is it's kind of a pain in the neck to hold somebody's money, honestly,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And then it's a pain in the neck for the person to get the money back. So people don't always want to front the money. And I mean, and one of our challenges with this is now if we decide we want to do this, then we're going to need to establish how much is the amount that we should take as the guarantee, right? So now it's like, and I'm not sure what the value would be. I guess what we would want to do is reach out to the wetland scientists. Actually, we'll probably, Art Allen did the review on this, so maybe Art could suggest a number for us. But then like literally, you know, that amount goes into a town of Scituate account and it sits there and then, but they're going to want it back. Like, trust me, they will. You know, they may even want the money to do the work. I don't know how it works, but that's one of the reasons why it's easier to just condition that you know, what the sequence we'd like to see it done rather than take your money, hold it, have you do it, and then give it back.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. I mean, if we feel like it's as good a guarantee and it solves a problem under these circumstances, I'm okay with it.
Brendan?
Yeah, I would be fine with it. Yeah, that's all.
So I guess the reason that we've gone back and forth, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, all I was going to say is in terms of the money, I think it does have to be substantial. I don't think we can underestimate it, but other than that, I think it's just in this particular situation worthy of pursuing.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that come up with that, and I think we've had issues, or we have them right now, where we've tried to work with folks to do this, and we didn't collect the money, and then the chase is on to get things done. So I think holding something substantial, in the case of a really large project like Toll Brothers or some of the other subdivisions, the developers post bonds. It's kind of tricky when it's a single family kind of operation, and holding cash or monies until that gets resolved has been something we've done before, and it does add a little bit of complication, but at least, or hopefully it guarantees that this will get done. I mean, let's just say someone totally ignored this. They get a occupancy permit from the building inspector for their house because that's constructed correctly, but then they haven't done their wetlands replication, and so then we say at some point we're going to use this money and go build a wetlands on your property. That's not easy either. So it certainly has complications. Here we're trying to work with someone that's in a tough situation and help out, but they're selling the property, and then the next person that comes along is not the person that we tried to accommodate to some degree. So I think that we really need to make sure we have sufficient funds not only to do that, but anticipating some other issues. So I think the money that we hold has to be enough money to really make sure someone goes and does what they're supposed to do. That being said, I can also appreciate the issues of trying to get this built. If they started to build this house off season from when a wetlands replication could be done, to try to build that, get plant material, all that sort of stuff takes time. And then they could be a year before they could get started. So I can appreciate why someone wants the guarantee that they can move on, they can put up the money, but I think that the money's got to be not only enough to cover the replication, but enough to be sure that it's a real incentive. And I guess that's where I am. And I hope that, I don't know who's putting up the money, whether it's the end user or it's the person that is selling the property. But I wouldn't want them to come back to us next year and say, gee, we put up this money, but the people won't build it. And then.
Yeah, well, so there's got to be a way that you associate a time frame with it too.
So I think maybe that's a good point, Amy, that not only is there money put aside, but that this could realistically be built by next April or May or something like that. So it's got to be twofold. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does to me. Okay, so why don't I work on getting a number and some language, and then at our next meeting we can talk about voting on it. Sound like a plan?
No.
Okay.
No, the P&S is over this week.
They'll extend it.
Okay, I don't know. I just, that's fine.
I mean, we're going to work with them. We're going to work with them to figure this out. And if it takes a few days to get that squared away, that's where it is. And I think that's kind of typical where they say, well, the PNS and there's a date, but those seem to be.
Well, I know. I'm just, the messenger.
Yeah. I can't get too revved up about dates from that.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Do we have anything else? Anybody have anything else? I hope everybody's well. For Andy and Brendan, I'm sure you're anticipating school starting soon. That ought to be fun.
Oh yeah.
Good times.
If you guys
and Jen.
Yes, Jen, who's not on the screen.
Her eyes just rolled back so far. I think she's having a hard time.
If you guys want to tune in to the Zoom meeting tomorrow at 6 to just observe what the conversation is, there's a meeting about Egypt Beach with the TA and the Board of Selectmen and their consultants. If you didn't know about that, that's just one way.
Is that link on the town website?
It is.
All right. Anything else? Okay, I'd take a motion to close.
I make a motion to close.
And a
Or
second?
To adjourn.
To adjourn.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, to that kind of close.
That close.
A second.
Thanks,
Second.
Doug. All right. Richard? For a vote to adjourn? Maybe he's already gone.
He wants to stick around.
Doug?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and adjourn.
Okay. Penny?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
Thanks so much. Y'all have a good night.
Night.
Thanks, Frank.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Night.
I don't know how to get out of here.